Peugeot's 107 remains one of the UK's best-selling city cars and has lately been improved to look cleaner and run greener, which means it remains competitive against more recently introduced rivals. Otherwise, it's still an endearing urban runabout that offers a surprising amount of space for the tight budget it sells to. Available in both 3 and 5-door body styles, with an up-and-atom 1-litre petrol engine, the 107 remains right on the money. Is there any automotive market sector more crowded at present than that for little city cars? Every mainstream maker has an entrant here, and for years they've all been trying to match this car, the design we first saw way back in 2005. With the combined resources of Peugeot, Citroen and Toyota behind it, it should have been good, and it was. Space efficient, frugal, affordable and very clever. Now, each of the 3 brands marketed the thing in their own way, but it was as Peugeot's 107 that it achieved most sales success, on these shores at least. British customers contributing hugely to the 650,000 total global sales that Peugeot had achieved with the 107 by the end of 2011. Time moves on though, and in recent years it's become clear that more recently introduced city car rivals may be getting this model's measure. Hence the need for the heavily revised version that we saw of this car early in 2012. There's a fresh front end on show and more economical running costs too, from the 1-litre 3-cylinder petrol engine that still beats beneath the bonnet. The question though is whether that's all going to be enough in the face of tough competition from all new rivals like Volkswagen's Up with its Seat and Skoda clones, the 3rd generation Fiat Panda, and even attractive Korean contenders like Kia's Picanto. It's now, with the 107 well on in its model cycle, that we're going to see whether the strength of the original design will really be enough for this car to last the course. Now, on paper, the prospects look good. Thanks to the most recent engine tweaks, running costs, surely the most important part of any little hatch, are unbeaten at the budget end of the city car sector. But in practice, how will this Peugeot stack up? Let's find out. So, get in, turn the key, and the 998cc petrol motor that's the only engine option still sounds pleasingly characterful. Now, it only puts out about 68 brake horsepower, but given that the maximum pulling power can be accessed as low as 3,600 RPM and that the car itself weighs only around 800 kilograms, that's quite enough to make it feel pretty zippy around town. The 4.73 metre turning circle's impressive too. In fact, this car really is in its element in an urban setting, thanks to the high driving position, the tiny dimensions and the light power steering. Visibility is enhanced by the oversized windows, and the short bonnet and stumpy rear make this car easy to place when you're manoeuvring into tight city spots. There's only so much the chassis designers could do about suspension comfort in a car with a wheelbase this small, but you can forgive the odd bump and thump in return for the wieldiness you get around town and the way that you can sidle into parking bays that would see other cars registering a refusal. One option that will prove popular for townies that really are limited to an urban setting will be the two-tronic semi-automatic transmission. It's essentially a manual gearbox without a clutch, but it will hit your running cost returns, and it will add about a second on your 0 to 60 time. Beyond the city limits, you might feel that the gear change from the 5-speed manual box and the steering could be sharper, but pushing on, this car can still reward the enthusiastic driver, though it soon runs out of grip and would-be rally drivers will find plenty of body roll. A good prod of the right foot will see 60 mile an hour come and go in 14.2 seconds, which might sound glacial, but actually feels a good deal more effervescent. You'll need to work hard to keep the 1-litre engine on the boil on motorway inclines though. Facelifts amount to normally a little more than restyled headlamps and a few splashes of extra chrome, but Peugeot's designers have gone a bit further here, creating a result that many will feel to be even better than the original. So there's a restyled front bumper and a lower front panel with housings for the daytime running lamps and front fog lights that are standard on plusher models like this one. There's little change at the rear though, where, as before, an opening glass panel replaces a conventional tailgate. Now, the disadvantage of this is that there's quite a high lip over which to lift your shopping. But once you do get it in, there's 139 litres of space. Now, that's a bit less than some competitors offer, but it may not be too much of a problem for most owners, given that most city cars don't tend to have the back seat in use very often. And in this one, you can push forward the rear bench. It's got a 50-50 split on all versions, but the entry-level variant, you can push it forward to free up 751 litres of total space. Of more import, perhaps, is this Peugeot's people carrying potential. Now, we're used to space-efficient city car designs these days, but back in 2005, when this model was first launched, it really was amazing just how much space the designers had crammed into this design, thanks to its wheeler each corner thinking. Now, it remains only 3.63 metres long and 1.63 metres wide. To put that into perspective, it's shorter than a Mini, yet two fully sized adults can sit quite comfortably on the back seat here, though they might bemoan the fact that you don't get wind-up windows, just these opening flaps. I might even think of putting my three kids on the back seat here, were it not for the fact that, rather annoyingly, only two belts are provided and there isn't the option for a third as an extra cost item. Urban runabouts like this used to be nasty places to have to spend more than short journeys in, but these days things are changing, at least in this case. Now, the cabin has been left pretty much untouched by the most recent round of revisions, but that's not too much of a problem. You've still got a bright cabin with a large glass area that makes it feel roomier than it is, with plenty of elbow room, a wheel that adjusts for rake with the instrument binnacle, although it goes up and down, but it doesn't adjust for reach in and out. And you've also got enough fore and aft adjustment on the seats for the most portly people. There are also nice touches like this intriguing translucent panel for the heating and ventilation. Prices range in the £8,000 to £11,000 bracket. So this 107 city car slots in just below the starting point for Peugeot's larger 208 Super Mini range. It's worth pointing out though that the 5-door body style that over 60% of British buyers choose can't be ordered with the base 107 trim level, and that means that starting price for that is, well, just over £9,000. That's probably something that Peugeot needs to look at. If you're looking at a mid to high spec 107 like this one and want it with the 5-door rather than the 3-door body style, you're looking at a premium of around about £350. If you want to go for the two-tronic semi-automatic gearbox rather than the 5-speed manual, then you're looking at a premium of around £500. So, how do those sorts of figures stack up against obvious rivals in the city car sector? Well, let's start with this model's two most obvious design stablemates, Citroen C1 and Toyota's Aygo. Like this Peugeot, these two come only with a 1-litre petrol engine, the choice of 3 or 5 doors, and the option of either 5-speed manual or 5-speed semi-automatic transmission. Now, the Citroen is priced almost identically to a 107, but this Peugeot does hold a price advantage over the Toyota of around £500 in most model-for-model comparisons, though the Aygo may seem a little cheaper in 5-door form because it can be ordered that way in base trim. The only other rival design in this segment that, like this one, limits you to 1-litre petrol power is that badged variously as either Suzuki's Alto or the Nissan Pixo. Now, both of these Indian-built models enjoy a price advantage over this Peugeot of up to £1,000 in the case of the Suzuki, but you really do pay for your saving with a cheap feel and basic design. Which is why most potential city car customers for this 107 who aren't considering its Citroen or Toyota design stablemates will probably be looking for something that's still affordable but slightly more sophisticated. And that something is most likely to be the design of the moment in city car land, the one that you'll find badged as either a Volkswagen Up, a Skoda Citigo or a Seat Me. Now, it'll be the 1 litre petrol variants of these models that this Peugeot competes with, of course. And of these, the Seat and the Skoda, they hold a slight price advantage, but this Peugeot is priced very comparably to a Volkswagen Up. What other recently introduced city car alternatives might you be considering? Kia's Picanto, perhaps, which in 1 litre form is priced pretty comparably to this Peugeot, but perhaps lacks a bit of its character. Or maybe Fiat's 3rd generation Panda, which looks good value against a 5-door 107, but does have a couple of key disadvantages. First, it can only be ordered with 5 doors, and secondly, its entry-level petrol engine is 1.2 litres in size, and it's a relatively old and dirty unit. Now, sharing that problem is Hyundai's i10. It too only comes with 5 doors, and it too has an entry-level 1.2 litre petrol engine that can't match the running costs of this 107 when it comes to the balance sheet. Other city car options can, to be honest, be even less appealing. They're either pricier, dirtier, and limit you to a 5-door body style. Step forward the Vauxhall Aguila, the Suzuki Splash, and the Chrysler Ypsilon. Or they're even more expensive and pretending to be fashionable and funky. They limit you to a 3-door body style. And I'm thinking here of cars like the Ford Ka, the Smart 42, the Renault Twingo, the Mini First, and entry-level versions of the Fiat 500. And I should point out that of that little lot, only the wildly impractical Smart can match the running cost returns of this Peugeot. So let's say that you've done your homework, you've weighed up all the options, and you've decided that a 107 is indeed what you want. What can you expect for your money? Well, it's a bit disappointing to find that the entry-level variants do without things like side rubbing strips, a 50-50 split rear seat and a rev counter. These of course are fitted on plusher variants like this one further up the range. But all models do get stuff like a decent quality MP3 compatible CD stereo with an audio input socket, a rear wash and wipe, a 12-volt power socket and speed related electrically assisted power steering. It's also rather laudable to find a full-size spare wheel fitted on every model. And of course, the further up the range you go, the more niceties you get with things like front fog lights, daytime running lamps, Bluetooth compatibility for your mobile phone and alloy wheels. Safety-wise, it's a pity that the entry-level variant doesn't get ISOFIX child seat fastenings, but all versions further up the range do. ESP stability control is also optional across the lineup, but all models do get twin front airbags and ABS brakes with EBFD electronic brake force distribution to make them more effective, and CSC cornering stability control to help with the twisty stuff. Now, if you thought that the 107 was cheap to run before, just wait until you run the rule over this revised version. The 1 litre engine always did display a stubborn refusal to consume fuel, but now the combined cycle fuel return is edged up from 61.4 to 65.7 miles to the gallon. But the even bigger news is around at the rear of the car, where tailpipe emissions have improved substantially as well, improved from 109 to just 99 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, this has all manner of benefits, including not having to pay a thing for your road tax disc and free entry into the London congestion charging zone. Depreciation, well, the figures continue to look reasonable, and models with air conditioning seem to be well received on the used car market. Insurance is rated at a low Group 3 on the 1 to 50 grouping scale, and your dealer is likely to offer you the option of a low-cost up-to-a servicing package to keep maintenance costs down. The 107 is easy to purchase too. Now, thanks to Peugeot's Just Add Fuel finance package, buyers can pay for virtually all their motoring costs in one hit. You get 3 years of fully comprehensive insurance, that's if you're 25 years or older, and 3 years of servicing, warranty and roadside assistance cover, all for one fixed monthly payment. Once you've paid that, all you have to do is simply add the fuel. And when your car returns over 65 miles to the gallon, then you don't even have to spend much on that. If you're shopping for a city car, then you still can't ignore this design, whichever of the 3 badges it wears. Why should you buy it in Peugeot 107, guys? Well, it arguably now looks the smartest of the trio, but beyond that, your decision will probably come down to price, specification, and the proximity of your local dealer. All issues that will leave Peugeot confident of snatching your cheque. New arrivals might apparently offer more personality, but don't dismiss a 107 on those grounds until you've tried one. The 3-cylinder engine isn't only mean and green, it has a sound all its own, and the cheeky styling looks good with the right colour choice and the addition of a few well-chosen extras. Here's a bestseller on merit. Don't expect that to change anytime soon.